Okay, so let's talk about Hulu's horror series Monsterland. It is packed with some seriously terrifying creatures. But you know what? The real horror isn't about the jump scares. It's the tragedy that sits right behind them. So in this explainer, we are going to dive in and uncover what these monsters are really trying to tell us about our own world.
So why is it that when you watch this show, you kind of feel more sad than scared? How does it pull that off? Well, the answer is hiding in a really old, almost forgotten storytelling format, one that's being brought back to life to talk about our most modern fears. It's a method that turns every single monster into a mirror for our collective age of anxiety. All right, so the key to unlocking Monsterland is a genre you've probably never even heard of, the medieval bestiary. And listen, this isn't just some random connection I'm making. It is the very blueprint the show uses to build its monsters and deliver its warnings.
So, what is a bestiary? Think of it like a medieval monster manual. It was a book where every single creature, whether it was a real animal like a lion or something totally mythical like a unicorn, wasn't just an animal, it was a symbol. Every entry was this carefully crafted story designed to teach you a lesson about good versus evil, about how to live a virtuous life. And you know, these bestiaries followed a pretty simple formula. First, you gather a collection of creatures. Then you use awesome illustrations to give them meaning. And finally, you attach a moral lesson to each and every one. Now, does that sound familiar? It's the exact structure Monsterland uses. It's an anthology of monsters, each with its own unique look and a really powerful warning for our time. This makes the show a kind of palimpsest. It's a fantastic word for an old manuscript where the original writing was scraped off, but you can still kind of see it bleeding through the new text. Monsterland isn't just making up new monster stories, it's writing them right on top of these ancient bestiary templates. And those old meanings? They are absolutely essential to understanding the new ones. Okay, let's look at a case study to see how this actually works. We're going to dive into the episode New York, NY. This is where the show takes a traditional symbol of goodness and piety, the pelican, and just twists it into something truly nightmarish. The climax of this episode is this absolutely wild, shocking image. A corrupt CEO, the guy responsible for a huge oil spill, literally gives birth to this creature. It's a monstrous, oil-slicked pelican. It is horrifying for sure. But to get what it really means, we have to look back to the original bestia.
And here is where you see the genius of the show's method. In those old medieval bestiaries, the pelican was a sacred symbol for Christ. It was said to pierce its own breast to feed its young with its blood, representing sacrifice and resurrection. Monsterland takes that idea and completely flips it on its head. This new pelican isn't a savior. It's basically the Antichrist, a harbinger of the apocalypse, born from pure corporate greed and ecological disaster.
Now, the show pulls the same move in the episode Palacios TX, but this time with another classic bestiary creature, the siren. But in this story, the real threat isn't what you think it is.
We all know the classic story of the siren, right? This beautiful, enchanting song comes from somewhere out in the water, and it tempts sailors, luring them to crash on the rocks. It's a classic story about an external threat. Monsterland flips the script and asks a much more disturbing question. What if that deadly song isn't coming from the outside? What if it's already inside of you? The show reframes the siren not as a tempter who creates some new, deadly desire, but as a mirror that just reflects a dark desire that's already there. See, the monster isn't the cause of the problem, it's just the catalyst. So the story follows this fisherman, Sharko. He's been physically and emotionally scarred by that same oil spill from the Pelican episode. He finds this siren, and you expect her to lure him to his death, but she doesn't. She doesn't create his death wish, she just amplifies the despair he's been feeling all along. In the end, he succumbs, but not to her song, he succumbs to the self-destructive one that's been playing in his own head ever since that man-made disaster completely ruined his life. So what does this all mean for us today, right? Why bother reviving this ancient genre right now? Well, the show makes a pretty compelling case that these old monsters are actually more relevant than ever. It's because Monsterland is basically a modern bestiary for what so many people have called our age of anxiety. The show is using this ancient format to give a physical form, a face, to all these complicated and often abstract fears that haunt our modern world. That oil-slicked pelican, the tragic siren, they aren't just fantasy creatures for a TV show. No way. They're living, breathing allegories for the very real horrors we see every single day. Corporate greed, ecological collapse, political corruption, and that deep, personal despair that can lead us to self-destruction.
When it comes right down to it, the monsters in this series are just mirrors. By making us look at these creatures, the show is really forcing us to look at the parts of our society, and yeah, the parts of ourselves, that we would much rather ignore.
And that leaves us with the ultimate takeaway. Those ancient bestiaries, they taught moral lessons for their time. This new, modern bestiary is asking us to seriously consider the morality of ours. If our collective anxieties are what gives shape to our monsters, then the final question the show leaves us with is a really haunting one. What monster are we, as a society, creating right now?